here. I am Alyssa Taylor Stewart, Administrator in the Office of Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships. And I want to welcome you to Parent Connection with Dr. Jill Baker, our Superintendent of Schools here in Long Beach Unified School District. Parent Connection is a wonderful opportunity for Dr. Baker to connect with our parents and caregivers, to provide district-wide information, and to engage in two-way communication to inform continuous improvement efforts in Long Beach Unified School District. Tonight, Dr. Baker will share information related to literacy in our early learning classrooms and elementary school classrooms. Dr. Baker will be joined by Justin Grayson, our Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer, and Dr. Lucy Salazar, the Director of the Office of Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships. Dr. Salazar will tell us all about the projects in our office and how each of them is connected to you. I encourage you to engage with tonight's presenters by asking questions or sharing comments directly in the link available in the YouTube frame. We will do our best to answer all of your questions tonight, but if we don't, be assured that someone from our office will reach out to you directly. So please share your contact information along with your question. Before we get started with tonight's presentation, I'd like to invite my friend to the stage, my friend and colleague, Dr. Amy Love. She is a social emotional learning coach from the Office of Student Support Services. Amy has something very special to share with us tonight. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Please welcome Amy Love.
Thanks, Alyssa. It's great to be here again with you this month. I'm super excited to share a quick and easy wellness opportunity for our parents, caregivers, families, and community members this evening. Now, I really appreciate the beginning of a new year because it feels like a call to action for me. A lot of us take time to reflect on how we're going to make this year a little bit better than the last year. Some of us set intentions or make resolutions. And this evening, I want to encourage each of us to add a little something to our intentions this year. I want to encourage us to add a daily dose, a daily intentional dose of joy. Just like you might take a dietary supplement each morning, maybe for your memory health or your digestion, or perhaps for additional vitamins and minerals, we can also add joy to our daily supplements. And researchers at the Greater Good Science Center up at UC Berkeley have found that when we take the time to intentionally cultivate joy in our lives, we experience a broad range of health benefits. In their course called The Science of Happiness, where this professor who studies the effects of joy on our bodies, his name is Dasher Keltner, he's found that when we intentionally practice joy, amazing things happen for our health. Our immune systems strengthen. Joy has been shown to lower our blood pressure, to reduce inflammation in our bodies, and even to lengthen our lives. And I don't know about you, but that's a multivitamin that I want to take every day. And luckily, it can be super easy and time efficient to practice joy. So we're going to do a little bit of that practice right now. We're going to practice, believe it or not, with our phones. So I want everybody to grab their phone. It's probably right next to you. If you're like me, I'm a parent and a caregiver myself, so I make sure I have my phone near me all the time. So I invite you to take your phone and open up to your photos, all the photographs that you've captured in your phone. And I want to invite you to scroll through for a moment and stop at a picture that you've taken that evokes a sense of joy for you. So take a minute, scrolling through and choosing a picture that evokes a sense of joy. And I want to invite you to really look at that picture. Really be present with that picture. Remember being there at the moment where you captured that image. And notice what it feels like in your body. What's the embodiment of joy like for you? So you might notice a smile on your face. You might notice a softening in your belly. Perhaps you notice your breath might steady a bit, or a feeling of warmth. Allow yourself to rest here with this embodied joy, just for a few more seconds. When we embody this joyful space, we put ourselves on the path to greater health and well-being. Okay, so you can put your phone down now. So that like few moments of cultivating joy just had the power to lower our blood pressure, strengthen our immune systems, reduce inflammation, and lengthen our lives. I also think of this daily dose of joy as taking my vitamin C, because joy also helps us to stay connected, C for connected, with ourselves, our families, and our communities. And it also can help to fuel our creativity. So joy is like taking a daily dose of vitamin C for connectivity and creativity. So this is a gentle encouragement for you to add a daily dose of joy to your daily supplements. So whether you're reflecting on joyful memories, or pausing to feel the warmth of the sun on your face. Oh my gosh, aren't you so glad we live in Southern California? Today was such a beautiful day. Pausing to feel the joy that comes from maybe witnessing our students learning, becoming more and more literate, and growing into their greatest potential. This intentional cultivation of joy is absolutely worth our time. And I'm grateful to get to share it with you, and hope that we have a great rest of our evening or day if you're watching this later in the week or some other time. And thanks again for inviting me to practice wellness with y'all.
Thank you so much, Amy, for that beautiful reminder to center joy. You know, when I took my few seconds to do it, I landed on a picture of my daughter and myself. And sometimes we're so hyper-focused on what isn't, we forget to focus on what is and the beauty that surrounds us. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. And we're so grateful to have you as part of our team here in Parent Connection. Well, we're all ready to hear from our superintendent, Dr. Baker, about literacy in the early learning in elementary school classrooms. Dr. Baker, welcome.
Thank you all. And thank you, Amy, for taking us through such a really nice experience to get started with the meeting. Since you shared, Alyssa, I'll share that I came upon a picture of my elderly mother. She actually has Alzheimer's. And so the holidays were difficult. She was in the hospital, but I have a joyful picture of her after she was out of the hospital, sitting with us in a safe environment and knowing us. And so I'm cherishing those moments with her because I know that they won't last forever. And so thank you. That was a nice moment of joy for me. And apropos to talking to parents tonight, because those of you who are here, most of you are parents or caregivers, or you have a parent or a caregiver. And so this space is really nice to be in with you. I wish it was under better circumstances and that we were in person. We are committed at some point when it feels like the right time and safe enough, bringing people together in in-person space. We will definitely work to do so. But in the meantime, we're going to make a way to connect with you virtually, share some really important resources, whether you're here tonight or you watch this at a future point, and make sure that I get to connect with you, hear your questions, and to be in community with you, as is important to me. And so Parent Connection tonight, January 2022, I am going to talk about some of the things that are going on right now. I'm not going to pass over the issues that we're facing around COVID and try to just give you a few glimpses around our commitment to health and safety and what we're doing in the district. And I'll talk about that in a couple of moments, but I just want to start going back to the purpose of Parent Connection. Tonight might be the first time that some of you are here for Parent Connection. And so I'm just going to quickly just center us on a few things, the purpose and then the assumptions around what I think about your role as parents or caregivers. And so this environment, this parent connection, the purpose is creating opportunities for connection, that human connection. And the way Amy started us off is just really elevating the human connection. But in this space, it's the human connection between you as parents or caregivers, myself, and then other district staff. And so you're going to get to interact with a couple other district staff tonight as well. And then provide district-wide information for you that you might not hear about if we didn't have parent connection. Hopefully this is in a systematic way, so many of you will remember that we're talking about the Learning Acceleration and Support Plan throughout this year. So I'm going to take you back into that plan and share a bit more that should enhance your connection to your schools and to our district. And then two-way communication. And we're doing the best that we can to take your questions via the link that's available to you. Staff will bring those questions in, and at the appropriate time, we'll pause and answer some of them. And the reminder that if it's not answered tonight, it will be answered. And you can submit those questions continually. And if it's not answered tonight, then we'll have someone that will get back to you around those connections, or your questions, I'm sorry. Secondly, just assumptions. What do we come here in the parent connection thinking? What am I thinking? Well, I'm thinking about you as your children's first teachers, parents or caregivers, that you're first teacher, that you bring your children, you want your child or your children to have a school experience that is, we hold high expectations for them. And also we balance the need for care. We believe, and I believe, very much that your students' lives are enhanced when you as parent or caregiver are involved, and that there's a really important connection in particular to your school and home. And I consider our district office and myself an extension of our schools. And so we want that connection because it positively impacts what happens to your students, academically and also social emotionally. And so very important assumptions that we all bring into the superintendent parent connection. And lastly, maintaining a focus. So this year's focus in the parent connection is around three things. The first is the Learning Acceleration and Support Plan, a very big district plan that I'll remind you a few things in a minute. But our plan that has a huge investment in learning acceleration and supports to students. Also in this moment in Parent Connection, continuing to talk about how to access the resources. Sometimes we hear from parents, well, I didn't know that was available, or I didn't know the questions to ask at my school. And so my time with you is also to really hand back to you some information, but more importantly, questions that you can feel comfortable in going out to your schools and asking about supports and things that are available through your schools. And then lastly, you met Justin Grayson, our Chief Communications and Engagement Officer, new to Long Beach Unified this year. Justin's going to continue to engage with you around community engagement, around communication, and tonight he's probably going to introduce you to one of the departments that he supports in Long Beach Unified School District. All right, so this is a really hard time across the country. Across the country, we are experiencing the COVID surge in every community, locally, in other states, and in other communities. And it is a really hard time. It's a hard time for staff. It's a hard time for students. And so I just want to take a moment of pause and just literally acknowledge that we are doing the best that we can. And I also know that families are doing the best that you can. Between December 31st and January 7th, which is about a week, there was an absolute flurry of information coming first from the federal level, the CDC, also coming from the California Department of Public Health, then to the LA County Department of Public Health, and from our local Long Beach Health and Human Services Department. All of those entities want children and staff in a school district to be safe, and they all have different ways of thinking that a school district can do that. And so many have asked the question about where do we go for our requirements and our guidance. I named 4 entities, but we are responsible to the Long Beach Health and Human Services Department. We informally call it the Long Beach Health Department, and the health director there that takes all of the information, federal, state, and county level, and synthesizes it into a way that is specific to the city of Long Beach and to Long Beach Unified School District. And so as of January 7th, the Long Beach Health Department issued updated guidance that we are responsible for implementing in the Long Beach Unified School District. If you did not receive the text messages or emails from our district communications team, all of this information that I'm going to share, because I'm not going to go way down into the details tonight, I just want you to know that there's information available to you. And to say a few things. It's all on our district website. And if you get to the homepage and you click on the COVID-19 link that's in a red bar, you will get to this information. It's also translated when you get to the district website. So I want to start on this slide. You see a flyer that was sent out and is also available on our district website announcing specific testing site at Cabrillo High School. Off of Santa Fe and Hill Street, where students and staff can access both PCR and rapid antigen tests. There's a specific line for our staff, and then families can access that testing information. The first day on Monday, the line was long because what we're experiencing is 2 weeks of all kinds of activities taking place in our community, family gatherings, which we know people want to gather with their family. But what we're experiencing this week and last week are things that happen during exposures that happen during travel and during community events and during family events, and that are now impacting our ability to run schools. And so part of that is providing a way for our staff and our students to get tested. The health department runs the test center. It's actually not run by the school district. We're supportive in that we're creating the space, and we have some of our staff helping to manage the lines and get people access to that clinic. You can see the hours. That clinic is open all day. And I believe they've actually figured out a way to work through lunch so that the line will not become long at any point, but there could be some waiting. No appointment is available. So if you're a family and you have a student who is ill, or if you're a staff member watching, similarly, you have access to a Long Beach Unified Clinic. In the new guidance from the health department, it's been very somewhat confusing, and it's been frustrating for community members. And I just want to acknowledge that we're sorry for how frustrating and confusing some of the information that is coming out. We do our best to simplify things down, stick with the facts of our Long Beach Health Department. And what that has resulted in is new guidance for isolation. Isolation happens when a student or staff member tests positive for COVID. It has also been new guidance for modified quarantine. That is when someone's exposed and how they are able to end a quarantine shorter than the 10 days by testing, and they can use our clinic to test and shorten the clinic, shorten their period of quarantine if they are symptom-free and if their test results show that they do not have COVID. Another factor that came into play in the new guidance were new mask requirements. And so at your schools, you will likely see, and I'm going to hold up a couple of props just to show you, you'll likely see staff, many of whom are wearing the district issued surgical mask. It looks like a simple blue mask, and let me just hold it up so you can see it. But it comes out of district issued surgical masks. And so while it looks simple, it's an upgraded mask. They're also available to students at school, although many of the adult masks don't fit students. And so it's not, the health department has not made a requirement for different masks for students, but they have for adults. And so you may see lots of blue masks, and you may see lots of our staff, including myself. When I've been out in schools last week and this week, and I will be tomorrow, I'm double masking. I'm wearing one of our district surgical masks and an additional cover so that I can stay safe. I'm also washing my hands a lot, and I'm boosted and vaccinated, and so doing my very best to stay safe in the community and to actually practice what I believe. Lastly, I'll just mention that there was a lot of publicity from the governor about at-home tests. At-home tests that could be used for a parent who just wants to symptom check their student. It's not for diagnosis, but it gives a parent an in-home opportunity to check the symptoms and to see if their student might have COVID. Those tests have not arrived into Long Beach Unified School District. Another point of frustration for some of you and for us, frankly. However, we do expect them to be in Long Beach Unified School District by the end of this week, and we will be distributing them. We need to see them. We need to see if they have directions that come with them, or how we can distribute them most supportively to our families. But we expect them to be in Long Beach Unified by the end of the week, which would enable us to have them out to schools next week. Again, those are symptom checker tests. They're rapid, at home, but they're not used for diagnosis, but they are used for a family who wants to just be sure, or they're a student who says, my throat is sore, and the parent wants to make an informed decision about not sending their child to school. They can be used at home. And so these are really important things that we're doing to keep all of our students and staff safe while we're going through this surge. It's projected that we have this week and probably a week to 2 more of really hard time. And then the epidemiologists are predicting that we will see a decline in cases. And so we are holding all of our health and safety measures really tightly right now, continuing this clinic, encouraging families who have students eligible to get vaccinated or boosted to do so as a way of helping our community. And so I'm gonna pause there. I know that there were some questions coming in around some of the changes. I'm not going to go, if you have a really detailed question about quarantine, about isolation, we're gonna hold that for staff to respond to you. But if there are some bigger questions that I can answer at a 30,000 foot perspective, I'm gonna ask staff to jump in, and feel free to ask those questions.
Thank you, Dr. Baker, for sharing information about, a tough conversation, but we appreciate your transparency. There are a couple follow-up questions. One of the parents wants to know, where does LBUSD get their guidance from, their health guidance from?
Yeah. And that I get asked that all the time, Alyssa. I'm not surprised to hear that again. So we get our requirements and our guidance from the Long Beach Health and Human Services Department. Different than many cities in Los Angeles County. In fact, we're one of only 2 cities in Los Angeles County that has our own health department. Most report to the county health department. Pasadena and Long Beach have our own health departments, which means that there is collaboration between Long Beach Health and Human Services and the county health department, but we have our own health director, Dr. Anissa Davis, who makes the policy and procedures specifically for the city of Long Beach and Long Beach Unified School District.
We're in good hands, it sounds like. Thank you so much for that. One of the parents wants to know, you talked about home tests. Why can't parents use home tests to give to the district as like a negative result for their child?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I have been asked that a lot in the last week. So the home tests that are used are a version of rapid antigen tests. But what the medical professionals who make the guidance on this have said is that they are not precise enough to be used for diagnostic measures. And so right now, we have been guided, and I'm going to say right now, because as I said, between December 31st and January 7th, there were a flurry of changes. And so at this time, those tests aren't being used because the health professionals have said that they're not precise enough information to be used diagnostically, which means that sometimes they could give you a false positive or a false negative.
Thank you. I learned something there. Thank you. The last question we have right now is, when will parents receive those tests that will be delivered to the homes? Do you have a date or an idea?
So we have received confirmation from the county office yesterday that the tests were received in the county office, and then they come to us. And so we're expecting a shipment by the end of this week. And it's likely going to be at least a couple of days turnaround to get out to our 84 school sites, which means that they have to be put on a truck, divided up, put on a truck, and distributed via our transportation around to every school site. So I'm holding hope that next week they will be out to school sites.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Baker. Those are the only questions we have right now about your COVID presentation, but if we get more, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you. And just a reminder that there is publicly available information on our website. And so just encourage families who still have questions or have questions later to access the information that I talked about on our website. All right, so I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about back to the Learning Acceleration and Support Plan in our district. The four things that I want you to remember, and so this is a slide that's familiar if you've been at previous sessions. The purpose of and some people are calling it the LASP, if you want to call it that, the Learning Acceleration and Support Plan, is thinking about the long-term experience of all of our students and all of our classrooms. We say in education, enhancing the core classroom experience. The core classroom experience is what every student goes into a classroom and experiences. So we're making an investment in training, in things that students will have in their classrooms to enhance the core classroom experience. Also, this plan invests in acceleration, and I'm going to talk briefly about acceleration tonight, intervention and support, English language arts, math, and other academic areas. There are supports available through this plan. There's a focus on student wellness and well-being. And you heard Amy Love talk about just her attention to well-being and wellness. She's a part of a district team that is working on how to structure those supports for well-being in schools. And then lastly, there's an aspect of this plan that is about enhancing school and classroom infrastructure. And I'm happy to say that we've begun our process of updating the furniture, which will take us 3 years to update the furniture in all of our Long Beach Unified classrooms. Right now, we're working on elementary furniture, and the facilities team is working on their next steps at the expense of $15 million a year to have new desks and new equipment for teachers and new ways of supporting students and the way that they move about in the classroom for grouping and for different kinds of use of technology in classrooms. This plan makes a major investment in that. So I'll just have you look at these slides really quickly. The next two slides are just reminders about how to access this plan. On the left-hand side, that is the front page of the district website, and you can see the arrow points to one click to get to the Learning Acceleration and Support Plan. The right-hand side of the slide shows you what it looks like when you click on that Learning Acceleration Plan. What you'll see there, the plan is available, the whole plan is available in 3 languages. There's also budgetary information if you like to see how much things cost and how the district is spending money in this plan. There are links there that you can access that. But tonight I'm going to spend 10 or 15 minutes really hovering around literacy acceleration and support, which is a part of the first pillar, academic acceleration and support. Just to give a little teaser, our next meeting, we'll be talking about math. So tonight I'm just going to do some hovering and keeping at a kind of a 30,000 foot perspective, as I like to say, around literacy, acceleration, and support. And what I'll end with are questions that you can take back to your school and that you could ask your child's teacher. You could ask a counselor. If you're in a parent meeting and think, I'm not sure what to ask, you're going to leave with several questions that you can ask about literacy, acceleration, and support. So let's jump in. The first thing that I want you to know is that our district uses research-based practices when we think about literacy development. You can Google Student Achievement Partners. They're a well-known entity, a nonprofit that works across the nation on bringing research around how students learn to read and how they progress in their literacy skills, and they support districts across the country with their research. These are 5 accelerators that, when used together in classrooms, have great potential. And what the research shows is that they accelerate student learning. And so I'll just touch on them, and then you can go back in and look at the slides if you want to. A lot of these pertain to as students learn to read in the early grades. However, some of them you should be seeing, for example, vocabulary and comprehension and close reading. Those are part of the TK, in fact, pre-K through high school experience for our students. So these components include attention to foundational skills. And I love that you can just see the little blocks there, because what you all and what I did as a parent thinking about foundational skills around learning letters and sounds and being able to rhyme and have fun with words are built through foundational skills. And the why of them is that we need students to have these foundational skills, to be able to play with words, to say, you know, what rhymes with glue? Oh, blue. Because that helps to build a fluent reader. And so learning those foundational skills are really important to seeing a student become a reader. Building background knowledge. So we build background knowledge because it helps a student be able to operate in the world. Growing background knowledge is done through lots of different kinds of reading, a teacher reading to students, students doing their own reading what's around you in the world, and your own experiences in the world. And so building background knowledge is one of those 5 literacy accelerators that you can start to think about even as parent. How are you building background knowledge even as you take a walk in the city or in your neighborhood, exposing students to street signs and directions and things that you might take for granted are a part of our everyday lives as parents or caregivers. The third is in classrooms, the direct teaching of vocabulary. Really important, and you'll see this a lot in elementary and middle, and then an advanced version of it in high schools. But one of the ways that we expand vocabulary is through reading, but it's also through word study and the direct teaching of vocabulary. The fourth thing is speaking and writing. And so how do we build students' ability to communicate about what they're reading, interpret, and to learn? Well, part of that is through speaking and writing. It's why we don't want our classrooms to always be quiet places. We want students to be talking about a topic, to be looking at a text and making a critical assumption about it, or to say their opinion about it, because speaking and then putting it into writing is part of a literacy accelerator, and it's the way that students really come to be literate individuals as they come up from elementary to middle and high school. And then last literacy accelerator that research shows when you combine these, we see student growth, is comprehension and close reading. We do that so that students pay really close attention to a piece of text so that they can compare 1 or 2 or 3 texts, which is a really responsible kind of way of being as a student, that they can actually do a comparison and look for what the author is actually trying to get the readers to say. So we call it close reading and comprehension in a classroom. And many times you'll see students come home with things that have been highlighted, or they'll write in the margin because they're doing a close reading, or they're working on comprehension with their teacher in the classroom. So think about, as I transition to the next slides, think about, what could you look for, what you could ask your student to describe around those accelerators. You might think, ask them, what are they reading? Are you taking any notes? What did you talk about in your classroom today? Did you have to look critically at a piece of text? So these don't have to be fancy like a teacher would use them. They can also be really simple ways when you're driving in the car, when you're walking in your neighborhood, when you're eating dinner together, or you see that your child doing their homework. These are things that you can check in on and start to notice in the work that they're doing. Second thing, and then I'm just going to give you a few details related to different levels of students. And so we're working hard to really think about this concept of accelerate, don't remediate, or accelerate, not remediate. There's actually a link that's going to be put in the chat for you that is an article that's based on evidence from math classrooms. So this crosses English language arts and math. But I want you to know, just at its simplest form, when you hear a teacher talk about acceleration, or why we have a learning acceleration plan and not a learning remediation plan, here are some reasons why. So acceleration, when you think about acceleration and thinking about what happened during distance learning and when students were at home during COVID, or even when they're having to miss school right now, there's what we call unfinished learning. And so why do we accelerate? Well, we accelerate to integrate a few lessons from a prior grade or unit, but not remediate, which means that you would extensively use under grade level content. So imagine you have a 6th grader and they missed a lot of they were at home for much of 5th grade. Instead of a teacher thinking, well, I'm going to teach what they don't know from 5th grade, a teacher can use their standards. They can look at some things that are important aspects of 5th grade, but not completely teach what the student doesn't know at a below grade level, because what research has shown is that if we're only remediating, that students lose ground in their learning up to a month or more of instruction, and then a student can never catch up. So another way to think about that, the second point in terms of accelerating, is what teachers and educators call just in time to grade appropriate learning versus isolated from grade appropriate learning. So you're in that 6th grade classroom or that 11th grade classroom, the teacher in their skill may pull in something from a prior grade level to explain something. They may look for a resource that's on the internet or from their classroom toolkit to explain something that's in a way that's simplified, but they're not changing the grade level content. They're holding a high expectations for their students at the grade level that they are. And then lastly, you can see the difference between accelerate and remediate when it comes to thinking about this, what we call procedural fluency. In literacy, we often talk about that as fluency. In math, we call it procedural fluency. So if you're remediating, it's 50% of the time spent on procedural fluency. In accelerating, there's this balance. You're teaching the skills, the concepts, the bigger concepts in application, but not just focusing on procedure. And so in summary, what I want you to remember about tonight is when you hear district staff, teachers or principals or counselors talking about acceleration, not remediation, it doesn't mean that we're not helping students who are struggling. It means that we're holding high standards at the grade level and trying to support students in that grade level with interventions that help them to catch up to their grade level, not to repeat grades and not to go so far behind that they can never catch up to their grade level. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about ways that that you may experience this at different levels in our schools. And tonight's not enough time to do justice to the hard work of our teachers and our support staff at our schools right now, but I want to give you a glimpse that you can then ask about when you're at your school site. So in elementary, early learning or elementary, 3 things to be thinking about. The first is a focus, and actually this is across all of our schools, a deep focus on high quality instruction for all students. That means every classroom. Engagement of students, participation of students, talking, discussing, high interest grade level texts, and tasks based on district unit guides. And so our district office over the last year and a half has worked very hard to provide high quality materials so that teachers have great resources and they have books and other tools that are provided for them to use in their classrooms. This also includes enhanced text that was based on our equity audit, helping to have more books and materials in our classrooms where students can see themselves in the curriculum. Multicultural texts that describe different kinds of families. The second part of this is opportunities for small group instruction and English language development. And so if you're an elementary parent, be thinking about, when you think about high quality instruction, what could you ask your student? Did you meet with a small group today? What are you reading in your classroom? Are there any special books that you've been able to have at your desk that are about your level? Because high quality instruction, you're going to hear me say it quickly, across all of the levels. At elementary, and this includes K-8 schools where the students are in elementary, there are many targeted interventions. We have in our learning acceleration and support plan, we have funded several hundred additional literacy teachers who are providing support to students who need more intensive, or what we say targeted intervention. That means specialized time. Sometimes it's in their classroom, an additional teacher comes in, and sometimes students go to a literacy classroom where it's quieter and they work in a small group. And those are connected to WonderWorks and Level Literacy Intervention. WonderWorks is the name of our elementary textbook for English language arts. And Level Literacy is something that we purchased to supplement in our support to students. We also have some schools that have very specific support for one-on-one teaching, which is Reading Recovery and Linda Moo Bell. It's not across the district, but it is in some schools that have highest need students and where schools have worked with their school site councils to fund very specific kinds of interventions. And lastly, at the elementary level, like across levels as well, every school has received funding to provide tutoring. Some of that's after school, some of that's on Saturday school, and I anticipate in the spring you're going to hear even some schools that are hosting spring recess supports for students. So that's elementary. At middle school, similarly, and here's a theme, high quality instruction for all students is a focus. Access and engagement with high interest grade level texts. Again, the units that teachers can access from our district curriculum office that provides them a guidance on materials and resources that they can use without having to go look around for what would support their students. In addition, our middle schools have instruction and intervention coordinators that are support teachers to both students and to other teachers. Middle schools have been creative this year. They've worked with the middle and K-8 office to provide some specific kinds of intervention courses, including creative writing and ELD, and they're using the zero period to offer these intervention courses. Something else innovative that they've done is for almost 50 newcomer students who had not been taught in English prior to coming into a school in Long Beach Unified. Because of distance learning and how we've learned to use Zoom, those students across 13 middle schools are participating in a program that supports them as English learners and getting to know each other, working on vocabulary and language structures and things that they can use when they go into their classroom for English language arts or history or science on their campus. And then lastly, our middle and K-8 schools, many of them also have creative literacy supports that are specific. They've worked with their school site councils. They've used the funds that come to them specifically as a school site to fund additional supports. So there's a theme, and I'll land the theme with our high school work. Our high schools also have worked very hard to think about English language arts, and specifically around academic discourse. That's a fancy way of saying the things that are taught academically in English language arts that strengthen a student's ability to read, write, speak, and critique text. And so the focus for high schools has been around use of their units. So an English language arts teacher has a unit guide that they use, and it looks at 4 different aspects of teaching literacy. The ability to understand text, which should look very different than in an elementary classroom, to critique text at a high level, to respond and write about text, and then to produce text. And so you can see on the left-hand side, just the focus on why are we critiquing text? Well, critiquing text strengthens and supports the writing process, and vice versa. It's a reciprocal process. Responding to text strengthens and supports understanding text, and vice versa. And so in our English language arts classrooms in high school, if you have a high school student, you can ask them, tell me about how you're working to critique text, respond to text, understand text. These are things that are across all of the classes in our high schools. I'll also want to comment, it's not on the slide, but all of our high schools have funding for tutoring. That looks different in a high school. Many of them have large Saturday school programs for both credit recovery, for supports, for tutoring. They also have departmental tutoring or pathway tutoring. And so as much as teachers are available to provide this, Right now, there is not an issue of funding. The district, because of the federal funds that we've received, have been able to fully support teachers providing tutoring, either after school, some of them during the day. There are ways that they have taught during their conference period or before school, as well as Saturday school. And then a specialized opportunity in our high schools right now is our Student Success Initiative. If you have ninth grader, there is a component of our Student Success Initiative across all of the high schools that is really fostering success for ninth graders. We know that for many students, ninth grade is a really difficult year, the year of transition, and after what students have experienced during COVID, makes it even harder. And so we have a specialized effort that includes tutoring and support for English language arts and math for groups of ninth graders that have been determined to need that support at the high schools. And so I promised that I would end with some questions. It's a lot of information, but what's important to me is that you have tools in your toolkit to go back to your school and have questions for you to use as you engage with teachers and others at your school building. And so these questions are designed to give you a prompt, whether you're, hopefully you're in conversation at least with one teacher. If you're a secondary parent, it may be one teacher that you anchor your conversations with. If you're an elementary school parent, obviously your child mostly interacts with one parent, although with one teacher, they may have an additional teacher right now that's supporting them. These questions also can be used if you're in a student success team meeting. If you find that your student's struggling and you are meeting with a team at your school, they can also be asked of an administrator at your school. So, what is my child's current literacy level? We talked in the last session about iReady data. There's a tool that will help you that someone at your school can look at with you to go through your student's current literacy level. And then asking that question, does he or she need intervention or support? What targeted or intensive interventions are available at this school that my child may participate in? So if you haven't had someone reach out to you about those interventions, then feel free to ask this question if you perceive that your student's struggling or you know that they're struggling. Here's a good one. What materials should my child be reading outside of the school day that I can monitor? Okay, ask your teacher, what is it that they should be bringing home? Even if you don't have time to read what they're reading, you can certainly monitor that they are reading. And that's an important aspect of what goes on outside of the school day. And then lastly, that question about how will I know that my child is making progress? We have lots of tools. The teacher is the most important factor in describing the progress that your child's making. But it's great if you need to ask because you don't know right now. Asking how will I know that my child's making progress is a really good question to ask. And so that was big picture, and then a few things by level, and hopefully some questions that will help you to add to your toolkit as you experience your interactions with schools or district office staff if you're calling for support here. These are questions that we can also help you to access back at your school site. All right, so I know you're all taking questions to the team that's facilitating today, and just want to open up for any specific questions that I might be able to answer tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Baker, for so much very, very important information. I think we've all learned a lot. I do want to share something with our parents and caregivers and families. Any links that Dr. Baker has referenced or any slide decks or anything that she wants to share will be available on our Parent University Canvas page. And they actually are available right now. So if you have something that you're sharing with the audience, that's where they can go, the Parent University Canvas page. Okay.
And how do they get to that?
So thank you for asking that question, Dr. Baker. I'm so excited about our Canvas page. I've talked about it so much because it's a kind of a new way that we're able to organize and get information out. If you go on the district website, A through Z, under P for Parent University, there's a big button that Rebecca Fast has put there for us to access. It's a button and it's a finger or something. It says Parent University Resources. You hit that button and it will take you right to the Parent University Canvas page. Okay, absolutely. Thank you. I do have one remaining question that came in about your COVID information. a parent is sharing that there's a lot of great information that you've shared, but how is that information being shared with the school sites?
So I'm happy to answer that, and then also just welcome Mr. Grayson if he wants to share anything. So there are regular meetings held with principals to review the new guidelines and the new information that's coming from the health department. We have a protocol for pulling principals into a Zoom meeting when there is updated information. Also, every school has a COVID captain or a COVID team, depending on the size of the school. And we hold meetings regularly when there is updated information to provide for those COVID captains or those COVID teams. And then there's a distribution of information that comes from our communications team. And that's Mr. Grayson and his team manage the distribution of that information to schools.
I think that was thorough. I would only add that we and hopefully everyone gets the messages that we send out, but we do send out our automated messages through School Messenger, via phone, via email, and do send them via text. So as I always say in these meetings, if you do not get those messages, please go in, talk to the school principal or go into your is it Parent View, right? Parent View, and update your information, because if you're not getting them, that means that we don't have your current cell phone number or email address. So it's very important that we have all of your information so that you do get the latest and greatest information coming from LBUSD, and also that we're forwarding on from our health department. So thank you, Dr. Baker, for mentioning that.
Yeah. I think it's important, because the question was asked, so let me just reiterate. There's so much information swirling around, and I named, the CDC at the federal level, the state Department of Public Health, the county Department of Public Health, and then the Long Beach Department of Public Health. And so what we post on our website is specific to our city and the guidance and rules and regulations that we must follow in the city of Long Beach. And so if parents, you can look at the Long Beach Health and Human Services website as well. But if you want to know up-to-date information as much as we have it from our local health department, it is on our district website.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So let's switch gears to some questions related to your presentation about literacy. This is kind of like a general question, and it's kind of touched my heart. One of the parents is sharing that her child is struggling. They've been in pandemic learning for 2 years, and they're coming back, and it's a youngster, and she's saying that, can our teachers please have some flexibility with the students? And I know I've been in spaces with you where you've encouraged that. So I just wanted to put that question on the table for you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take it as feedback, and that's what tonight is about, having, even though it's virtual, having that direct connection that we need to keep communicating. Some people call it grace, some people call it flexibility. For high school parents, I will just say it tonight, we are distributing information about the end of this semester and our expectations for flexibility, and for teachers to feel comfortable, and for students to know that many students have been out, and we know that it's stressful for them to be out. And so we are distributing guidance specific to flexibility and giving grace at the end of this semester as finals are coming. That pertains to high school families, but I'll take the comment or the question as feedback for something that we can continue to communicate.
Thank you. Another parent is asking about the accelerate, don't remediate paradigm. She's talking specifically about dual immersion. How, if a student is not gaining the vocabulary in the second language, how can they move forward without remediation? How does accelerate, don't remediate work in the DI programs?
Yeah, great question. There's an added complexity, of course, when students are learning a second language as part of their daily schedule. And so the philosophy still holds, though, that we don't want to, so imagine if you have a second grader in dual immersion, you want the classroom experience to be at second grade level. If the student is not performing at second grade level and they're struggling, the teacher in the way that they differentiate, in what they do in the small group setting. Sometimes a teacher will give different homework to a student who's struggling, or will ask a parent to be involved in a different way, but they're teaching at the second grade level. However, they're determining some things, perhaps from first grade, that a student needs to have as part of their daily second grade schedule that allows them to keep going at second grade, but to fill in some of the missing learning or the unfinished learning that may have been at the first grade level, say. A specific example of that might be a second grader who's still learning how to read. They might need some additional practice in their foundational reading skills. They may need to have additional practice around sounds and blends in one of the languages. And a teacher can still teach reading at the second grade level, but incorporate some of those specific skills in a small group setting. In some cases, it's done individually. So the difference is not spending all the time or most of the time below grade level, finding the skills or things that a student needs, bringing them into the grade level setting, but continuing to have the student experience grade level stories and grade level content while they're in some ways filling some of the foundational needs that a student needs.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. There's another question about the dual immersion programs. Since the Spanish DI schools do not use iReady for language, how will you evaluate like the targeted language as far as like literacy and so forth in the dual immersion program?
Yeah, so I think that our team is looking at iReady in Spanish as a means of also assessing the target language. And there are a number of other tools that are available to district teachers. The literacy program that we use also has Spanish edition. And so there are a number of ways that the team or that teachers and their school teams can use to actually assess students in the target language.
Okay, a couple more questions. It was a very interesting, people were very interested in this topic. Do new teachers get training in literacy?
Well, first of all, we're really fortunate. We have a great partnership with our universities. And so we actually have an influence and on what teachers learn when they're going through their teacher credentialing program. And yes, our teachers do. They're supported through a specialized program called BITSA that is part of what a teacher receives for their first couple of years as teachers, where they get support from a teacher who works in a similar setting. So an elementary teacher typically gets support from another elementary teacher, a secondary teacher from a secondary teacher in their content area. So they're provided district training and very specific supports through a district program that's required of them to finish their credentialing work. And then beyond the first couple of years, one of the things that our district has been known for is its professional development for teachers. We've had to pause many things during these last couple of years of COVID, but that will continue. The professional development will continue into the years ahead, beyond just the new teachers, but definitely there are supports for new teachers.
One thing I can say as an educator in this district, we have an amazing professional development program. I'm very, very grateful for that. So we are going to transition. I know there may be more questions coming in about literacy, Dr. Baker, and I promise you we'll get them to you so you and your team can answer them. And folks at home, I want you to know your questions will be answered, but we're going to shift gears, I think, right now. Maybe Mr. Grayson is going to join us.
I'm pleased to introduce, and you know him if you've been at previous Parent Connection sessions, but Mr. Justin Grayson, our Chief of Communications and Engagement, to kick off the next session of Parent Connection.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baker, and thank you for the rest of the team. And thank you to everyone who's watching. It's been really great to just, I feel like I'm getting to know people through, even though it's through Zoom and even though it's through, and even though I cannot see you, I still feel like I'm getting to know the community. And I appreciate all the questions that are coming in and just all the feedback. I've been on this Parent Connection before, but just to quickly reintroduce myself, I'm Justin Grayson. I am the Chief of Communications and Community Engagement for Long Beach Unified School District. I've been here since August of last year, so still getting to know everyone, still learning faces since I can't see them all the time, but it's been really awesome to just be a part of a district that's so involved, especially with our community. Be it a district that obviously is doing what it can to keep kids safe in an environment like the one that we work in. And so I am leading the Office of Communications and Community Engagement, but under that office, we have 3 different departments. We've got our Public Information Office. That office is the one that is responsible for sharing a lot of the large scale information that goes out to everyone in the community. Anytime that there's messages that go out to our whole community, it goes through our Public Information Office, whether it's via phone, whether it's via email. We also share information with the press. That's the department that works directly with our local media and our national media whenever there's questions that come in. And so whenever you see a quote from somebody at the district in the newspaper, a lot of times that came through our office as well. We communicate with the press and then pass on information to Dr. Baker, and she might respond with a quote or something like that. We've also got our department, our Media and Marketing Services department. So they're the team, whenever you see those really neat videos that come out from Long Beach Unified on our YouTube page, on our social media pages, that's our Media and Marketing Services department. They also manage all of these meetings. So they're the ones that help us be efficient and effective with these Zoom meetings, and knock on wood, we haven't seen anything go down lately. They're super efficient. They do a great job. And so that's our Media and Marketing Services department. They also run all of our social media accounts as well. And then we've got the Office of Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships. And so we're going to have a special guest tonight. That's Dr. Lucy Salazar. She's going to give us a quick little overview on what we're doing with equity, engagement, and partnership. She's going to talk about her department, how it's structured, and some of the things that they do. But before I go into that, I just want to give a quick little overview. The research is clear when it comes to family involvement in a child's education. We recognize that families, however, can't always be fully engaged if they don't have access to, one, all the necessary information that comes from the district, from the teachers, and from the communities around them. And two, it's hard for them to be fully engaged if they don't understand or can't access the information because of language barriers. There's also things like, do they feel excluded because the information is not given to them in ways that their technology allows them to? And so these are things to think about when you think about why we have a department of equity, partnerships, and engagement, and community engagement. So when it comes to our office, our strategy is to give students, parents, and teachers and staff the shared responsibility over student achievement. We're all working together. We always say that we're in this together. We've said it throughout the pandemic, but it's a statement that goes much further beyond that. It's all about education, and we're all in this together. We want to create an environment where where members of our community feel that they don't only have that participation in the students' achievement, but also they have participation in the decision-making process. We want people to feel like they can not only receive all the information from us, but also that they can give feedback and share information back with us. So we're working on those two-way methods of communication. We really want you to be involved in getting questions to us, getting answers to us. We love partnerships. If you have ideas for partnerships, if you're on the Zoom, I think we've got over 100 people that are on the Zoom right now. So if you have ideas for partnerships or different organizations or businesses that you work with that you think the district could benefit from a partnership with, please reach out to us and let us know. But for this kind of cohesive environment to occur, student achievement, of course, needs to be a concern of the whole community. And so as this department, we're looking to create those conditions and create that environment where everyone has access to all that information and can articulate those goals to us. So that's just a quick little overview. Dr. Salazar is going to go into more detail. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce one of the members of my team, and it's been so great working with her. That's Dr. Lucy Salazar. She's our Director of Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships. So Dr. Salazar, I'll let you take it over and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Justin, and thank you, Dr. Baker. Good evening. Again, my name is Lucy Salazar, and it's my joy, following along with that theme, it's my joy to be the Director for Equity, Engagement, and Partnerships. And so we've heard a lot of great information from Dr. Baker, some really important information around how things are right now in our district and how we're managing this pandemic and making sure that everyone is staying safe. And a lot of what I'm sharing today is what Justin referred to as how do we provide access for our families. And so before I begin to share a little bit about our office, I really just wanted to say that I'm grateful for this opportunity to share what we do in equity, engagement, and partnerships. But first off, you may have experienced at any point a connection with our office. So for example, currently, if you have a middle school 8th grader who is having to decide what high school to go to, we are connected to you right now. If you have an upcoming 5th grader, like I do personally at my house, if you have a 5th grader who will soon need to do a selection and decide through our choice process, what middle school will they go to? You have a connection to our office. Likewise, if you are engaging in any of our parent groups, be it our DCAC, and I'll share what that is, but if you're also an EONA, which is happening concurrently right now in another YouTube experience and channel, if you are part of our Coalition of Informed African American Parents, you are connected to our office. Right now, be through Parent University. So we are connected, and you are connected to our department in many, many ways as a parent. If your children are attending after school through our RAP program, again, you're connected to my office. So it's, again, a joy to be here to share with you a little bit about our office. So let's get started, and let me share some information with you. So first off, it's really important that you know that our office is aligned to Dr. Baker's goals. If you are unfamiliar with Dr. Baker's goals, they are here for you. But we are strategically and purposely aligned to her 5th goal, which really calls out the need to create systems for two-way communication between the district and parents and the community organization so that we can strengthen that partnership. So with that, what do we do and what are we doing in our office? Well, we do several things. I called out a few examples of how you might be connected with us, but more specifically, we oversee a lot of work that happens in support of schools, but most importantly, in support of our families. So one of the things we do is some of you are participating right now in our Kamai channel and our Spanish channel for YouTube. It's because our office oversees the language accessibility. So that's to make sure that we are the bridge. Our office and our team, who does a wonderful job and is always taking feedback, does a lovely job of ensuring that we are the bridge to parents and that we are the bridge to students, because it's not just with parents that we provide language accessibility support, but also to our students and of course the community as needed. As well, we are also connecting our Long Beach students with opportunities through businesses and organizations, be it through a learning opportunity, as well as through internships, paid internships, which we are really excited and worked really hard to create. Likewise, we are developing and we are engaging with targeted stakeholder groups for a variety of purposes. So albeit we are engaging with stakeholders for budget engagement, we might soon get started, and you may have heard about this already, about our strategic planning process, which will set foot and take off in the coming months. But we are also creating advisory committees, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a bit. Parent University is one of our more public-facing, our more well-known things that we oversee in our office, and I hope you enjoy. And Parent Connection is fortunate to be in collaboration with Parent Connection and Parent University, and so we're just very lucky. Let's see, other things that are being overseen in our department is making sure that school of choice process is an equitable process, and that we know that it's a really hard decision that parents have to make as your children transition from 5th grade to 6th and from 8th grade entering high school. And so we just really are here to make sure it's an equitable process, that families are supportive, and we have a fabulous staff. Rebecca Fast, as well as Yolanda Huerta and Sam Keo, who are doing a dynamic job of supporting our families with their many, many questions. And lastly, we have a lot of students in our many, many campuses. And I dare say now at each of our campuses, there's an after-school program that is supporting your children before school, after school as well. And during the summer and holidays, we are open. Our WRAP programs are open for your children. And so what do we do with our WRAP program? It's not just childcare. It is not just adults with children. There's a strong focus on developing their academic, their social, emotional, and physical needs, and really being a high interest opportunity for students after school. So those are some of the things we oversee. Another way to look at our work is through, I like to refer to it as containers. So you can also think of our office in a different way. You can think of our office as the office that is charged and gets to work with partnerships through the community, through external programs. Again, we have partnerships that extend not only beyond the Port of Long Beach and Boeing, but we also are expanding the large majority of our partnerships, small and large. And under that, we also oversee some of the work that happens with the Long Beach Education Foundation. So we have our nonprofit arm as well to the district under this office. Likewise, we really strive to improve the ways and be robust in the ways that we are engaging with our stakeholders. And under this container, if you will, we have many different initiatives. Some of them you will find in the Learning Acceleration and Support Plan, specifically in Pillar 3 under Engagement and Voice. And through that, we have an initiative that because of the Black Student Achievement Initiative, we've created an advisory committee and we meet monthly, and we've got some great things coming your way. But we also are serving as liaison to this District Community Advisory Committee, better known as DCAC, as well as participating in budget engagement sessions with a variety of stakeholders. Another container is our parent engagement. And you can see on the slide some of the opportunities or some of the ways that parent engagement is looking in our district, albeit through, again, I keep saying Parent University because we're so proud of the work that's coming out of Parent University, but we're also proud to welcome on with limited access some of our VIPs. And if you need more information about that, please visit our website. You will find information around VIPs, which are our volunteers and public schools. We've already mentioned the coalition, our coalition of informed African American parents, led by not yours truly, but Ms. Alyssa Taylor Stewart, as well as our Pacific Islander Education Voyage and EONA, which is our educational opportunities for Native Americans. Language accessibility is another container we have, and lastly, school engagement, our education celebration, and our high school choice fair. So those are just some of the examples of our many containers that we have going. But we have a wonderful staff in support of all of our work. So I'd like to share with you, in case you have a question, a pressing question, I want to share with you some contact. Who can you contact in the event that you have a need, that you have a pressing question? Of course, you can ask your question tonight. I'm here to answer. But this is I would describe it as our org chart, but or organizational chart, but it's not complete. You see me, my name right there. I'm the director, and my fabulous assistant is Ms. Denise Armstrong, and she does an amazing job of answering many, many questions. But if you need to get a question answered that's particular to one of those containers that I shared, I wanted to share this with you. So we have Michelle Tomasian, who's amazing with our business engagement and strategic partnerships. She also oversees the Long Beach Education Foundation, and you can see her email, as well as some of the programs that she oversees on this chart. We also have Stephanie Heilig, who has been very visible as of late because she is our choice office administrator. And so currently we are in the throes, if you will, of high school choice, and soon we will begin our middle school choice process. And so if you have any questions around choice, that is Ms. Heilig's email address. You all know Alyssa Taylor. She is our parent engagement, administrator. And so she oversees several of our initiatives for parent engagement. And for tonight's purpose, she oversees Parent Connection as well as Parent University. And then we have Ms. Debbie Deaton. She is our administrator for WRAP, So all your questions that you might have and hold can be directed to Ms. Debbie Deaton, who is our administrator for RAP. And lastly, we have Carmen Hernandez. And Carmen Hernandez is our administrator who oversees our team for interpreting and translating, our language access team, but she's also engaging as a coordinator for our many different parent engagement groups. So I've listed a few there. So that is our office. I am so fortunate I get to come to work alongside all our team, and working along with each of us. We have a strong team that is answering phones, that is committed to making sure parents feel heard, committed to ensuring that parents have the right answer and feel that our services are benefiting them. So I can take questions if there are questions. But yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity to share a little bit about equity, engagement, and partnerships.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Salazar, for sharing about our wonderful, amazing office. I'm being a little partial and biased. I don't think we have any questions right now, but I know that parents sometimes engage with the link and ask questions later on. And so I foresee some questions coming through, and we'll make sure you get them. Absolutely.
Alyssa,
yes.
I just wanted to add an acknowledgement of something that actually grew out of Parent Connection, an idea that came through the questions or input received around a specialized parent support group. And the Office of Equity, Partnerships or Engagement and Partnerships activated on that to form a specialized parent group. And so if you have ideas from your perspective as parents, and there's something that you can help us, this meeting is about continuous improvement and bringing ideas forward. And so the opportunity to ask questions, you can also put ideas in the feedback form. And just if those are ideas that we can activate on, some may take a little longer, others may be something that comes quickly. That's why we hold these meetings, not just to give you information, but also to receive your good ideas.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Baker. And it's absolutely true. Tomorrow we're going to be visiting a school site and visiting a school site council. So we have our office is really an office without walls, and we go into the community, we go into the school sites. So we're just excited to engage with our community. And so we're really fortunate to be able to have this opportunity. We are, I think, at the end of our meeting. I don't know if Mr. Grayson or Dr. Baker or Dr. Salazar, if you have any parting comments for our families tonight.
I just wanted to echo again what Dr. Baker said. Yes, we welcome all your feedback. We welcome all of your suggestions, your ideas. Yes, if you need anything, please let us know, because we may not have thought about it, right? We don't know what we don't know. And so we welcome your ideas. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We invite you to come back every month to Parent Connection. On the 25th in Parent University, we are having a nonprofit organization workshop to share with our Long Beach Unified School District community all of the resources and supports available throughout the nonprofits here in Long Beach, the great city of Long Beach. So please join us. We'll be getting the link out to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, Happy New Year. We're still in January, so Happy New Year. Be safe, take care, and we'll see you soon.